if we do not, as a society, leave this as better people, we will have lost bigger picture. You're stuck in your house. What is something you always wanted to do? Did you want to write a book? Did you want to hold a yoga pose that you couldn't get? Did you want to learn how to play guitar? If you do not leave here bettering yourself at something,
what's happening, everybody? Welcome back to the Funky Brain Podcast. My name is Dennis, and this is my Funky Brain. And today, I have a high school friend who we haven't seen each other in person. But I just want to say, we're in a crazy time right now. And how cool is it that we can communicate with friends and family miles away? So I'm talking to my friend, Chris D'Amico, who has an inspiring story rooted in grief and faith and love. Mr. Chris D'Amico, how are you doing today, my friend?
Great, how are you? First off and foremost, never do the math. You did the math. You see, I tell people I graduated years ago. That's what I do.
It seems like just yesterday we were eating slices of pizza at Pleasantdale Pizza.
I know.
With Ray, who is no longer with us. You know, I think where our discussion is going to go today is how the directions that life takes you and the challenges put in front of you. So Chris has an inspiring story that I'm going to kind of let him dive into a little bit here, and then we'll see where it goes.
Well, almost 5 years ago, as Dennis knows, I lost my son to a boating accident. He was 10 years old in Lake Hopatcong, New Jersey. And he fell off the front of the boat while we were coming to dock and sucked in by the propeller and was killed instantly. It was, people have their defining moments in their life. That was one of mine. So, trying to think of all the places I've been, the things that have happened since. But I think the thing that experience wakes you up, and this experience has definitely woke me. I guess that's the millennial term. I'm woke now. It's a different way of thinking. Sort of kind of like your funky brain.
Yeah. And one of the things that because of social media, we're all connected. But because of social media, we're all connected. So I remember that day 5 years ago almost, and I remember looking online and you said, we lost our angel last night or whatever the verbiage was. And I was like, holy crap. And I reached out to Sal and I was like, and I messaged Sal and I said, what happened to Chris's boy? And he told me, and all of our hearts were crying. And over the years, probably, not more than yours, but the worst thing that can ever happen in your life is that you lose a child. Yes. People think it's cancer or a global pandemic, which is awful. All those things are awful, but losing your child is there's nothing worse that can happen in your life.
One of the things that I've come to learn, is you are here and your legacy when you leave is your children. It's a piece of you that dies that day. We came from our parents and it's the natural order of things. So people lose their parents all the time. And yes, there's associated grief and there's associated heartache because this is something that your child is something that you would gladly give your life for. And I couldn't. And I usually say to people all the time, there's two forms of grief going on here. There's the grief of losing your child, and then there's the grief of losing who you were as a person, the way you perceived your life, the way you thought your life was going to go. That died along with him that day. And from that day, to navigate not only my feelings for missing my son, but who I am now in this brave new world without him. I often say to people, you die more than once in your life. Listen, your children are probably the only people that you're going to know in your life for the first 18 years, if you're a responsible parent. You're going to be with them pretty much 365, 24/7 from the moment they're born. The moment they're brought to think, I mean, wrap your head around that concept. This person, from the moment he was brought into the world, I watched him take his first breath and I watched him take his last.
With that, one of the cool things that's come out of this is that Chris has been grieving on Facebook, which is awesome. I think it's such a great way to use that because, like, my background is rooted in recovery from alcoholism and addiction. And one of the big things associated with that is the isolation and getting stuck up in my head. And that's why, there's meetings to go to and people to talk to get those thoughts out, those thoughts that are killing me inside, those self-defeating, depressive thoughts that keep me from being productive, happy, and healthy and stuff like that. So when I see Chris, he'll go off on these long rants because he can't sleep. But he's getting those thoughts out of his head onto a medium to maybe even help somebody. Like, who knows? But mostly it's just helping him get these thoughts out. And one night I was reading it and he said, trust me, folks, you're worried about the wrong shit. With all of his rants that he went through, that one hit me the most because I know we get stuck in our thoughts about, usually it's selfish stuff. Most of it's about me. I need more money. I need this. What do people think about me? Do I look okay? Or, this and that. We're worried about the wrong shit. We need to be thinking about other people and stop worrying in the first place. Like, the world moves so fast. Once you get past 18 years old, I mean, George Costanza was like, life's like a roll of toilet paper. The closer you get to the end, the faster it goes. It's just going like exponentially faster. And, our most valuable asset in life, it's not your money or your investments or your car or your house. It's time. So with that in mind, how are you spending your time? Are you spending your time worrying about what people think about you, or are you enjoying your time? And then when something like tragic like this happens and it sets you back emotionally, physically, spiritually, on every level, how do you cope with that?
You take 2 steps back to take a look at everything and reassess. That's one of the things. I put my thoughts out on Facebook because if I had this ruminating in my mind all day, I cannot get on with my day. So it was almost like, here are my thoughts, and I'm bald like Dennis, and I'm going to take them and I'm going to put them over here so that I can go on with my day. And that is what it did. Now, there was a couple of cool things that came out of it that I didn't expect. First off and foremost was I didn't think people, like Dennis included, the toughest thing, though, you were speaking about how we worry about the wrong shit. We still can't help but do it. No matter all the self-talk that you give yourself, you still worry about the perception of people. How will people look at this podcast? I mean, it's the human condition. I'm a musician by trade. So my whole entire life is, okay, are they liking what they're hearing? Am I doing a good job? I'm an entertainer. That's what I do. And, if you see yourself falling into the same patterns, it might be time to change your tribe.
That's right.
Now, I'm not saying, completely diss your family members, but they have to understand that in order to stay in your life, they need to know where you want to go in your life and accept it. This thing, right after Chris passed away, just shortly after, a month after, we started something. And, I was saying to you earlier, your legacy in this life, just as you were saying, we're like a snowball going down the hill as fast as it's going. So what do you leave behind? You leave your children. I mean, I do believe we're here to help others, to have people tune in to understand how one action leads to another action, reaction, which leads to another action. I tell people all the time, if you take a rock and you throw it into a lake, what's the first thing you see? Splash. And everybody pays attention to the splashes because splashes are cool, But there's another action happening, and that's the ripples. And usually nobody pays attention to the ripples. But we took 2 truckloads of dog and cat food to the local shelters. That's a splash. And people would say, oh, that's nice. Okay. And they move on from there because you don't see the ripples. When I speak at schools to the kids about what that little action did, what you do see is 2 truckloads going to the shelter. What you don't see is once they're at the shelter, there are now dogs and cats that are sitting in cages on the shelves that were supposed to be put down because there was no food to feed them. Now there's food to feed them. Now they're not going to get put down, so they're going to still be here. Now, because they're still here, people are going to come and adopt those animals because they're still here to adopt. Now, those people take those animals home and they fill their home with love that they never had before and make these people happier people. And all of this started with a little 7-year-old boy saying to his mom and dad, instead of presents for my birthday, I want dog and cat food.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing. And I got to say that that's an awareness that I didn't have growing up. And, you know, one of the things I think about is how, like, one of the reasons people fail in sobriety is because it's hard. You know, that's the first reason. The other reason is, think about this. It's not about, like, not drinking or anything. It's about growing up. It's about, like, having new levels of awareness, doing new things. And it's hard to grow up in your 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever. And I never had those types of awarenesses that you're talking about until later in life. And those awarenesses, that growth, at least in my case, it usually comes from some sort of pain and suffering.
Well, true wisdom only comes from pain.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm curious, like, all these things that you're sharing, do you think that you had these same levels of awareness before this tragic accident?
No, my son taught me this. That's the gift he gave me. You know, when people pass away, especially ones that are close, the first question that always goes through everybody's mouth is why? And then, you know, you have the spiritual people. You know, it'll all be told to you one day. Some people never get that reason here. Whatever religion you believe in, maybe in the great beyond, who knows? I've been blessed enough to get the reason, because the whole reason we started Kindness for Christopher was just who my son was and what he taught me and my wife. You know, I just gave you that one example of what my son did. But when he passed away, we donated 8 of his organs so that other people could survive. So we donated 8 organs. Splash. I don't know 7 of the 8 recipients of his organs that they're here today because of my son's gift. So maybe part of that reason was to have these other 8 people survive so that they can put their stamp on the world. Maybe, you know, we started Kindness for Christopher. One of the things we wanted to do, because he always wore pajama bottoms and a sweatshirt wherever he went. When I teach the kids at school, I say to them, you have a superpower. And just like superheroes in a movie, they don't realize they have a power until somebody comes along and shows them they have a power. And they'll kind of look at me and go, what kind of power do I have? You have the power of kindness. And then people go like this, kindness. Stay with me, because here's the lesson. Kindness can really move mountains. Let's take, for example, you know, I always tell people you're a superhero, but the cape and mask are optional. So Christopher wore pajama pants and a sweatshirt wherever he went. So one of the first things we decided to do that Christmas, we lost him in June. So that Christmas we decided we're going to have a pajama drive so that all the kids that are in the hospitals like CHOP, Morristown, Goriab, all these hospitals where kids are sick and stuff like that, all they get is that little paper gown and their underwear. So why don't we get them pajamas? So this way they can be warm and cozy in pajamas, just like Chris liked to wear pajamas. So now, because of that donation, all these kids, and we've gotten bigger sizes to go to battered women's shelters, to go to homeless shelters, so that people have just something to wear.
What is, to keep going with the Kindness for Christopher thing, how do people reach out to you or to that organization? What is the, I guess, the mission statement or the goal?
Kindness for Christopher started on July 24th, a month after the day he passed. The mission statement was simple. when we watched people grieve, the first thing I did, and I've watched other parents grieve their kids too, and they do the same thing. My son passed away Wednesday, June the 24th. So every Wednesday for the first, I can't tell you how many months. I'm sure there's a record on Facebook. So instead of making it something somber or depressing, we decided, what the heck? We're going to start a movement. And it's not a monetary movement. Most people think, oh, it's charity, we're donating. No. This is a simple mission statement. On the 24th of every month, we would like you to do it every day, but we're going to let Christopher be the reminder to be kinder on the 24th of every month. So if you're going to do one random act of kindness for somebody, make it the 24th and do it in the memory of a kid that was taken away too soon. It could be something as simple as telling somebody, hey, Dennis, that's a nice shirt you have on today. Did that cost you anything? No. Giving somebody a smile. Sitting next to somebody and asking how they're doing. Because you know what? There's so many little lessons that I've taken along the way. Everybody has got something that they're going through. Billy Joel sang a song called The Stranger, where we all have a face that we hide away forever, and we take them out and show ourselves when everyone is gone. Some are satin, some are steel, some are silk, and some are leather. They're the faces of the stranger, and we love to try them on. And what it means is the outward display. Every time you saw Robin Williams in public, he always was on. He was on. But behind that mask, that man was suffering. So everybody is going through something. I don't care who you are. Okay? Dan, if you didn't tell me, if I didn't know your backstory, and we just caught up today, I would have no idea that you were in recovery. So you don't know what's going on. Okay? So to just sit next to somebody and say, how you doing? How you been? Hey, I just made coffee. You want a cup of coffee? Or sometimes it can be monetary. Like, sometimes we'll go online to Dunkin' Donuts in the drive-thru and we'll buy the person behind us their coffee. Imagine if we concentrated on it. Imagine if we did that, what we can accomplish. And it's sad because it takes a pandemic or a 9/11 to truly show the power of kindness, the power of the ripple effect. If we all lived our lives that way, what could we do? I always say, I wake up with the best intentions in the world. Actually, this is the way I do it. Dear God, I want to thank you for making me patient, kind, and set me off into this world to do a fantastic job in the world that I'm living in and try to make it a better place. So with that said, I'm getting out of bed right now, and I'd like you to make that carry out through the rest of the day. We all have the best intentions, and then humanity gets in the way. And the weight of humanity gets in the way. Because we all have responsibility. Ignorance is bliss. One of the reasons why kids do what kids do is because they don't carry the weight on the shoulder that grown-ups do in terms of responsibility. When you truly have people that count on you, or even you counting on yourself. When we're kids, we got mommy and daddy as backup sometimes, most of the times. But you still knew you had a place, even if it wasn't the greatest place in the world to live, you still knew you had a place to come and live. But eventually you get to a time in your life where you're your place to live. You're your own. Okay, ain't nobody else going to do it for you. You got to do it for you. And it even gets even more, before there wasn't all this, there was just a you and me. Make sense?
Oh, it totally makes sense.
And that's people today.
But I have a theory on that. And first of all, awesome, powerful messages that you're sending out there, and we'll talk about all of those. Sure. I have a feeling we're going to probably be talking for a while here. But I've been thinking about things a little bit differently lately. And that, yeah, I think that we are divided. And I think that it is really sad. And I think that people are attached to things that aren't personal, like politics. I think people are getting way too emotionally attached to them, to what's going on. But I'm not sure that we're more divided than we were a long time ago, or if it's just more publicized. I think the world has always been pretty divided. I think that there were, we'll watch old movies and we'll see, oh, this person is a Republican, this person's a Democrat, this person is a Christian.
This is now the live version of Soapbox. Look, even if we were divided in the town we grew up in, which in some cases, in actuality, we were.
Up the hill, down the...
This is the best example of how fucked up we are as a society. I think the entire town we grew up with that could physically possibly be there at the wake and or funeral was there. There's so many...
It takes an event like that, like such a tragedy, to bring everybody together.
Well, this is just what I'm saying right now. It takes a pandemic for everybody to come together as humans. Now's the time to work together. We have a problem here. Get past the partisan politics. For anybody to hold up the bill to keep people from making money that they're missing in this time is ridiculous. We have to be kind to one another. We have to take care of one another because we're the only people we've got. It just, again, this is like you said, true wisdom only comes from pain. And we're suffering right now. This is the age, like I said, we would never say anything to people. This doesn't make you cool. This makes you a coward. All the people that open their mouths, it'd be a very quiet room because nobody would say a word. And then they get home, and then if the same conversation that you would have at the table were online, everybody would throw their 2 cents in because it's safe in your pajamas at home. It's not only just a logical way of looking at everything, because everybody loves to think in their little boxes, but nobody steps back to look at the big picture. You could be fixated on something and not see anything else going on around you. That just goes to show you that even when you're in your darkest moment, you're still bringing somebody into the light. That's a power. That's a power.
There's something I heard there that I've talked about before, and that's, you said this light and the dark. And when you're in the darkness, you feel like you're never going to get out of the darkness.
Oh, no.
And then the other principle involved there is that you can't kill the darkness with more darkness. You have to bring light into the picture. In whatever form that is, love or kindness, helping other people, whatever it is. Or in that darkness, when you turn on the light, the darkness just disappears.
This experience could do one of two things. It can crush you or call you to action. I always tell people like this, pretend you caught a big fish. If this is 0 and this is 100, an experience like mine will knock you back here.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, and we've all been hit hard, and then that's where that growth comes from, and that awareness. And then I think with that, there's a responsibility to give it back. And I think that's part of what you're saying. You're like, I don't know if I can help anybody, but you are. And now I want to know, and I want to keep going, but I want to say, how do people get in touch with you? How do people contribute to Kindness for Christopher?
Well, you can contribute by doing one random act of kindness on the 24th of every month. That's all it takes. Okay? There is no money exchanging hands. This isn't a charity. This is a movement. We want you to do one. If you can't do it every day, then at least do it on the 24th of every month. Right now, we only have the Facebook page, which is Kindness for Christopher D on Facebook. You can message us through the page or kindnessforchristopher@gmail.com if you want to email us or share your experience with us or learn a bit more about what we've done and how far we've come.
I love that. And that, I think that when we were talking earlier about the kindness, just the ripple effect. A couple months ago, we were out before we all had to be isolated, and we were out at breakfast in this restaurant, and there was this older couple next to us. And I said to Amy, I was like, we should just buy their breakfast for them. And so we did. So I said to the waitress quietly, I was like, we're going to buy their breakfast. And, it was like $25, whatever it was. And so we were sitting there listening, and we didn't look at them. But the waitress told them when they asked for their check that it had been taken care of for them. And they were like, what? And they were almost like angry, like what? And who was it? And she's like, the waitress was like, I'm sorry, I can't tell you who it was, but it's been taken care of. And they were just like, they were looking around the restaurant trying to find who it was that bought their breakfast. And then they had looked at us, but we weren't looking at them. We were trying not to look at them. But what struck me the most, she said, I guess we have to do that for somebody else now. And that's how that happens. It's like, one small act of kindness has that ripple effect.
There are two things going on here right now. Exactly what you said. They're probably going to buy somebody else's. Well, first of all, even if they don't, how many people do you think they're going to tell that story to throughout the course of that day? Let's put a footnote there because I want to share another story with you. Second is, how did that make you feel?
Yeah. It gets you out of yourself. Because usually when we're upset or worried or fearful or whatever, it's because I'm thinking about myself too much. I have to make money. What do people think of me? Oh, this and this.
How did that make you feel, though?
Right.
When you left there and you knew you paid for somebody's breakfast and you brightened somebody's day. Now, I just realized something that we're talking about here now that we're in this pandemic. If we do not, as a society, leave this as better people, we will have lost the bigger picture, okay? You're stuck in your house. What is something you always wanted to do? Did you want to write a book? Did you want to hold a yoga pose that you couldn't get? If you have a business, did you want to improve your position on social media? Did you want to learn how to play guitar? Did you want to clean out that garage? It's looking like we're going to be stuck here till at least maybe May, if not more. If you do not leave here bettering yourself at something, all the things that you said, if I had more time, I would, you have more time. And there's the other part of it too. Don't you, miss humanity? Dan, it's great to be talking to you like this, but
I like that.
That's what you have to understand. That's the first thing you have to clear yourself of. You're not stuck. You're safe at home. This is when everybody starts to say to, well, this is when I'm supposed to start slowing down and figuring out what I'm going to do on the back ends. That's why people stop. It's the perception. It's the bill of goods that we've been sold growing up. You're supposed to get married. You're supposed to have kids. You're supposed to get a job. You're supposed to buy a house. You're supposed to live in this. You're supposed to have 2.3 children. You're supposed to get this car. You're supposed to do this. Around 50 years old, you're supposed to be slowing down and trying to figure out retirement. Life expectancy is now in our 80s, maybe later now. Okay? But if you press on and you keep working and you work hard and you push and you don't go backwards, you stand your ground and go forward, you don't know what you can accomplish. Look, life will turn on you in a dime.
Yeah. Well, and then the idea there and the lesson there is to not have the expectations of getting anything in return. That's it too. Expectations are killers. When we say expectations are pre-planned resentments. I'm expecting to get a return on that. I'm expecting my spouse or partner or friend to act like this or do this or give this. And when you do, you get disappointed. The idea is to be kind and loving without those expectations. What I've been doing every morning, I wake up and I go for a walk because that's what we're doing now for exercise. Everybody's walking everywhere. And I make sure that when a car drives by or I pass somebody, even though I'm keeping my 6 feet distance, I smile and wave to every single person I see. And some people are like, crabby, or some people drive in, they'll look at me like, I don't know you. But it's okay. Like I don't expect them to do anything back. I like observing people's reactions, but it's just my responsibility to me to smile and wave to everybody because it makes me feel good. And then I carry that positive energy. That's that light I was talking about. You can't kill darkness with more darkness. We're down right now. We're being hit right now. Businesses, people are losing their livelihoods, their businesses. And you can't kill that with hate. You can't kill that with more anger. You have to bring love in. And I don't know what the message is for those people that are losing their businesses right now. I mean, there's some hard things, hard times about to happen,
Okay.
but they grow out of it.
But just like, why did I lose Christopher? I've come to accept I lost Christopher so that 8 other people could survive. Thousands of people have pajamas.
And there's a rock on the Great Wall of China.
Well, I mean, but there's actual other things that were done in Christopher's name during this Kindness for Christopher thing. We were facilitators. They can make a difference. I've spent 20-something plus years as a wedding entertainer. I've got one of the best reputations in this business. If it was all of a sudden taken away from me, well, I'm going to go back and play bars and clubs again. Maybe go back to wait tables again. Maybe this, maybe that, maybe that. But I wouldn't stop. When did you write your book?
It was 2 years ago, 2018, I think.
Okay, 2017, maybe 16. Did you think you'd write a book?
Nope. I didn't even plan on it.
Okay. So that's the point I'm making. It's like you have no idea where, like, we should be sitting back and enjoying the ride instead of trying to drive the car.
I love that. That's such a great analogy. And then another thing that you said about the time frame and the age and everything. And when I was 35 years old, which was about 3.5 years after I got sober, and I used to shake my head and bang my head against the wall and feel sorry for myself and say, God, I wasted 15 years of my life. And I said, all that time is gone. I can't ever get it back. And my sister, my younger sister, she looked at me, and I was 35 years old, and she said, you still have 65 years left. I was like, wow. That's looking at things, that's looking at the light and not the darkness.
Well, the best example is my father.
Pat.
My father is going to be 77 this year.
Pat.
Yeah. And my father will tell you exactly how he feels. He has no filter. And I'm like, geez. I always believe we age backwards. We should age backwards. We shouldn't age forwards. Because when you ask him why he says what he says, he's like, I'm fucking 77 years old. Who gives a shit at this point? It's like you get to a point, I'm not saying you don't care, but it's just like he's not worried about the shit that we're worried about right now. It's like, I got this experience. I got 30 more years than you do, on this planet that I've been to. Who gives a shit what people think or say?
I think what you're talking about there, the principle, at least that I hear, is about worrying. And if you ever watched that 7 Years in Tibet, it was a Buddha, or not Buddha, young Dalai Lama. And the old lessons that he said, he's like, if something can be controlled, then there's no use worrying about it. And if it can't be controlled, worrying will do you no good. Either way, this worrying, all it does is kill us on the inside. It's not really producing any results. All it does is hurting ourselves.
The PTSD, see, because that's the other thing too about grief, is nobody gets out clean. My PTSD is my anxiety. I'm just afraid, like I said, when you've had the worst thing in the world ever happen to you, Anything can happen. I mean, come on. Do you ever think we could be in the middle of a pandemic?
Not in our lifetime.
Not in our lifetime. Do you ever think 9/11 would happen?
Not in our lifetime.
Not in our lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
Did I ever think I could lose my kid? Everybody has that, oh my God, I don't know what I would do if anything ever happened to you. I got to learn it firsthand. And I made mistakes through this journey. I'm trying to survive. Because at first you're drowning. So you're just grabbing for something to keep you up. And then once you get your head back on straight, which takes about a year to a year and a half.
Yeah. Chris, awesome, powerful messages. I'm really grateful that you took the time. I think we'll have to do it again so we can
Anytime.
finish up some more of these ideas, because I'm sure that between the two of us, we could probably go on and on for quite a long time.
Oh, our existential stuff. I haven't even covered all the spiritual aspects of this thing. Oof.
I know. Well, then let's do it again. We'll plan on doing it again, and we'll tie it all back in together.
Good, because what am I doing the next 2 months?
Yeah, where are you going? Nowhere. Well, right on, man. Thank you so much for being on the Funky Brain Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
I love you, man. I'm so grateful that we got to spend this time together after 3 decades. And I look forward to doing it again. Have a great day today, everybody.